Ed Willis, the last time we did a video, once again theorizing about the potential of ever getting back to play, and since then we've travailed the mountain of the hub city of where the games are going to be played, and now we're actually talking about things on ice. And you've got a piece that you've just written about how the Canucks' great white whale for many years was the blue line, and dare we ask, have they fixed it?
Well, it's not for many years, it's for all of them, as a matter of fact. I don't know, but I think for one of the few times in the franchise's history, Canucks fans can be optimistic, can be hopeful that they're close. Like Quinn Hughes is found money, right? He's a given. He's either going to be good, great, or a Hall of Famer somewhere in there somewhere. So the thing with the defense is you only need to get 2 or 3 right. You can always fill in around the edges and waiver wire or trade for this guy or whatever. But, as long as you've got those 2-3 guys to build the rest of the group, that's all you need. They've got Hughes. Jack Rathbone is a endlessly intriguing player. And having said that, I've never seen him play, but just following the reports, in the Quinn Hughes mold, a modern, smallish, very good skater, good with the puck, offensive-minded. So, they seem to be, not only do they have good players, but they seem to be players that fit into the modern NHL game. So now we'll just have to wait and see where it all goes from here.
I find Quinn Hughes fascinating for a number of reasons, and one of them framed on stuff that's been going on lately in Canucks fandom and media fights and everything else that's going on. Pretty ridiculous. Another one flared up today. I don't know if you saw that. Jay Janower and Thomas Drance getting into it, public spat. And again, dear departed friend Jason Botchford would have just been eating this up. Every time I see this, I'm like, oh, that took care of another 5,000 words of his probably. But it brings me to the point, there's so much squabbling over scouts and who has credit for this draft pick and who has credit for that draft pick. All you have to do is look at the Canucks legacy. You look at the Sedins and how long it took them to become elite players. Then you look at guys even recently like Jake Virtanen, who people are still waiting to see the promise. But when you talk about Hughes, when you talk about Elias Pettersson, we kind of knew in the first 20 games that these guys were can't miss, didn't we?
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to scoop myself here because I spent about 45 minutes, which would, believe me, was infinitely preferable to watching Canucks line rushes, going over the history of the Calder voting. There isn't a team in the post-expansion era which has had finalists 3 years in a row. Now, there have been a lot of teams that have been close and around there, and I'll spare you all the details. But for the Canucks to have, they're really in uncharted territory here. Again, nobody knows what that means. You can't really project, what the upside's going to be. But the very fact that they have these 3 building blocks in place says something. What it says exactly will be determined here over time. But it really is, like I said, an unprecedented event.
Well, one of the things it says is that they weren't very good, so they had high draft picks.
Well, okay, no, but fair enough. Okay, see, now you opened that up. But no, hang on. Besser was the 24th pick. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. Pettersson 5th overall. The one team, interestingly enough, now you asked the question, you get it. Pittsburgh in, I think it's 04 to 05. So they've got Sidney Crosby as a finalist in the 04-05 season. He loses to Ovechkin. The next year they have Jordan Staal and Evgeny Malkin. Well, you look at that. That's 1st overall, 2nd overall, 3rd overall. Yeah. So, but you are right, sort of. But you can't really say the Canucks aren't like the Nordiques of the early 90s that had the 1st overall pick 3 years in a row.
Yeah, no, and that is the remarkable thing about and regardless of where the pick is, you still have to make it, right? I mean, again, I think. Well, we've had the debate before about Pettersson. If you do a redraft, he goes number 1. Hughes, maybe it's too early to say that, but he would certainly be in the conversation. I knowing the Canucks legacy, and we've just finished this 50th anniversary thing, to see this team get those high choices and have them again. This isn't like the Sedins. We're not waiting another 3-4 years while they have to learn this part of the game. And maybe the CBA is more of a function of that now, where you need guys to play and you need them to be productive and you're going to trust them more. But you certainly, out of the box, it's first Pettersson and now Hughes. I think you can see that I mean, this is the cornerstone of this franchise. And I do like that you're being positive about this and about their blue line, because I do see so much negative talk around the salary cap and,
Mm-hmm.
the things that they have that are going to hold them back as an anchor. And yet here the team are headed into playoffs, or play-ins and then playoffs. How do you think they are primed to go into this now?
Yeah, same as everybody else. I mean, you just looked at the standings this year, and it's a coin flip between all those teams that were clustered, I guess, from like 6 to 10 in the Western Conference. I mean, what Minnesota, somebody asked Travis Green, I almost thought it was like a tongue-in-cheek question. I went, no, 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 they are serious. If the Canucks should be considered favorites because they finished ahead of Minnesota in the standings, one frickin' point. I mean, I don't think that. And Minnesota was the hottest team.
Give them home ice, Ed.
Yeah, no, that's right. Minnesota was also the hottest team in the NHL when we paused. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll be, should be interesting, and under different circumstances, you think, wow, this is really a litmus test for this team, a litmus test for Pettersson, for Hughes, for the young players, their first exposure to the game played at its highest level when the table stakes are highest. Yeah. I just don't know if you can draw that this year. So like everybody else, I'm kind of really interested to see how it all turns out. I don't have a hot clue about how it's going to turn out, though.
Now we'll wrap it up with this. You're not going into the bubble, but we are sending a reporter to Edmonton. Lucky you. Although I think Edmonton gets a bit of a bad rap, to be honest with you. But you've had a couple of days at Rogers Arena under this experience. While you're in the arena, you're still using Zoom. and we won't go into that story.
We don't have enough time for that conversation, no.
But even when you're at the games, you'll be doing this video. Although if you're there in person, you get preference over people who aren't there. How has this whole experience been for you? You've covered a lot. You've seen a lot. Been in the Olympic mix zones. You've been through riots, 9/11, canceled series. What's this experience been like for you to be back in the rink with stuff going on and anticipating what the games will be like in these conditions?
Yeah, it's kind of a little too early to neatly sum it up. It was a little jarring yesterday. And the funny thing is, once you get in your seat, if you sort of ignore everything that's going on around you and look at the ice, you go, oh yeah, that's hockey. This is a training camp. Look, they're doing that drill. Now they're scrimmaging. Oh, that guy looked good. That guy not so much. Whatever. But it's just like the things like, and you mentioned Zoom, but for instance, I spent about an hour yesterday trying to get Zoom up and running, and we won't go into any more detail than that. Those are things that aren't really part of my normal day-to-day existence. The availability is all, and they have no choice in the matter, but the availability is all through Zoom. So there's no kind of, drawing your guy aside to work your angle, to work a very specific story. You get your one, maybe two questions in. That's it. Getting your temperature taken as you walk in, social distancing. I mean, normally we kind of all sit in a group and everybody kind of kibitzes and all the rest of it. Now everybody's kind of, sitting socially distancing apart with their masks on. So it's strange. It's jarring. That's just for us. I'm just really wondering how the players are going to adjust when they get inside the bubble. And I thought Travis Green kind of mentioned, he said, sports psychologists are available. And you think about mental health in the workplace. Yeah. And what an issue that's turned out during the lockdown. Well, NHL, that's the workplace, and the players aren't impervious to it.
One thing will be interesting for you being there. Of course, I'm a big soccer fan. Most people know that. Watching the games from the EPL in particular, and on the broadcast, they give you the choice of having the fake crowd noise added, or without. Now, from an aesthetic point of view, it's way better to have the fake crowd noise on. But when you have the feed that doesn't have it, you hear stuff that's being yelled, and you can kind of tell. You get a little more information that way. And I know on hockey, there's a lot of stuff going on the bench, coaches yelling things. It's going to be really interesting to be in the rink and have that ability to hear what's being said right from the bench.
So the old Boston Garden, the press box was it was at a lower level, and it kind of hung out over the ice. So you're almost looking down, and when the Winnipeg Jets, the team I covered, went there, it would be they play on a Tuesday night, and it wasn't the normal Boston hockey crowd. So I mean, you could hear the players swearing at each other. Could hear the coach swearing at the referee. It was this whole new, and I'm kind of thinking this is what it's going to be like. I think they're going to have to be on their best behavior because the default word for every NHL player begins with F, and it isn't frick. Although it sounds like it. So it's going to be one of the many adjustments to all this. And I haven't followed the EPL, but I watched the early Bundesliga games just to see what it would be like. And you're right, it is weird. Keep coming back to that weird, but it is so out of our normal experience. And we'll see how this goes.
Well, we appreciate your efforts, Ed. Thanks for this. We'll as long as we can figure out the technology, we'll continue to do these videos right through the Canucks playoffs.
Either that or convince the NHL to use Skype instead of Zoom, but I guess that's probably not going to happen either.